What was something you didn't know about men? Story 1. Most of them are way into cuddling and having their heads rubbed. Almost every single man I've ever been with is basically a huge cuddly baby behind closed doors. My husband is the worst, or best, about it. He wants to be touched almost 24/7 and is worse than a cat about shoving his way onto my lap no matter what I'm doing for me to rub his back or play with his hair. I'll just be sitting there when all of a sudden he'll half lay on me across my lap so he can wrap his arms around my waist and shove his face into my stomach or chest. Even my 20-year-old brother secretly wants affection behind closed doors. Back when we were in our teens and we both struggled with insomnia, I spent a lot of sleepless nights watching movies with him. As the night went on, he would slowly inch closer and closer so that he could have subtle contact, even if it was just leaning into me a little. He would also pretend to fall asleep so he could lay across my lap so I would play with the grease trap that he calls hair, because I subconsciously start playing with people's hair the moment they lay on my lap. Asleep people don't hum along to songs from The Princess and the Frog. Eventually, I just told him if he wants affection, all he has to do is ask. He doesn't need to pretend to be asleep. He denied pretending to sleep, but after that, he would just flop down whenever during our movie nights. I think men's intense urges for physical affection stem from once they reach a certain age. Even as kids, their parents don't show them that kind of affection. My brother stopped getting physical affection from our parents when he was only 6. He turned to me for it because despite me only being a few years older, my siblings view me as more motherly than sisterly since our mom basically hands off emotionally, and I naturally have a strong maternal instinct that filled that role for them. Anytime there were some major family issues, my siblings, especially my brother, would end up clinging to me. The hair playing started when our parents nearly divorced, and he asked me to stay with him when he was awake, even if I was sleeping because he didn't want to be alone. People are also weird, and I think men can't get affection from anyone but their romantic partners, since my grandmother even freaked out once when she found us napping in the same bed after Thanksgiving dinner because it was the only guest bed. Our dad yelled at her saying we're literally siblings and just tired. We weren't even touching, just sharing a space. I know a lot of people are just weird and assume the worst, but they wouldn't assume the same if I was affectionate to my sisters, which I am. It's really understated how much men like physical affection. That's a given. Story 2. They love compliments and will hold on to them for years. I noticed this with my husband a while back. Whenever I tell him that something he wears makes him look nice, he'll wear it as often as possible. If he tries something on while shopping that I think looks good on him, he'll buy it and put it on as soon as we get home. I love that guy. The last compliment I received was from my friend's 13-year-old daughter about 4 years ago. She said, "You look really cool in that shirt." Not that the shirt was cool, I was cool in it. It's my first shirt to wear after laundry day. I'm always in a better mood with that shirt on. I will never forget the compliment. 8 or 9 years ago, walking through a parking lot on the way to work, a woman, also walking in, said to me, "You have a nice walking pace. It's very consistent." Maybe just because it's an odd thing to compliment, but it stayed in my head. But it's the best compliment I can remember since then, and I've been married for 5 years, to someone completely different. I'm sure a lot of men don't really hear a lot of compliments, so it's nice to hear this. Story 3. That they can literally beat the life out of and slap around their dong, but one tap on the balls and they're on the ground. One of my friends gave another friend a love tap on the balls and he threw up. I've been kicked in the clit with the pointy part of a shoe, and it really hurt. I was at school and wearing basketball shorts, so I got to feel the whole impact. But this dude straight up changed colors in the face and repeatedly heaved, even after the initial vomiting. It seems like it probably hurts a lot. I'm glad I don't have balls. And for clarification, I've discovered that a love tap generally seems to mean punching someone in the balls as far as my male friends are concerned. There's nothing lovey or happy about it. As a fetus, the testicles are formed inside the belly and remain so until the final stages of pregnancy, sometimes after. Because they are technically inside the body when the brain is mapping the body, the brain marks testicles as internal organs. That means A, pain signals are amplified because pain signals from internal organs are a big deal, and B, testicle pain can induce a vomit response because that is a normal reflex for internal organ distress. This is definitely something any man can attest to. Story 4. My friend said she was amazed at how men can make anything fun and a collaborative project. Throwing rocks in the lake? How far can you throw? How many skips? Biggest splash? Or digging a hole at the beach? Every man will join in and make a hole halfway to China. That's the beauty of being a man. One time I was driving 4 hours to my mom's town. I noticed someone started following me. I drove a little fast, and after a while I realized he was just my cruising buddy. When I got to my exit, I looked back as I stuck my hand out the window to wave goodbye, and he was already waving at me as he was passing. Made a friend without even seeing him up close. I freaking love digging holes. When I was a kid, we lived in a house with a fair bit of woods. I'd just grab the shovel, choose a spot, and dig for like hours. And then I'd look at it and be damn proud of this big ol' hole I just dug. My parents were freaking furious. The only thing that has prevented me from digging a hole to China is the lack of time. Story 5. How much trauma they tend to accept as simple facts of life definitely made me more invested in my brothers. If my husband has experienced X, Y, and Z and has thought nothing should be done or even said about it, how many experiences like that have other men in my life had? I've had that before. Don't know that anyone told me to suppress stuff, but once the obvious steps have been taken, traumatic stuff just gets compartmentalized. I was molested as a very young child, and after berating some folks at the camp where it happened, it just wasn't something we talked about because what was to say? Most of my family had a similar experience in some other context during their lives. I thought it was a regrettable but not uncommon thing. Didn't cross my mind that this is a big deal till I was in my 20s. Honestly, this is an issue very much maintained by both men and women alike. We men grow up in an environment where we don't talk about our issues of any kind, period. Even more so for our mental issues. I was pressured into taking therapy for my issues, and it took me weeks to start opening up. Did help a lot though, so I am grateful for my family. I do think this is more of an issue with men, since they're told not to talk about their feelings. Story 6. My ex-wife was shocked at how short a phone conversation can be for dudes. My best friend called me once. This man literally flew across the country once to be at our wedding. Called me because he was bringing me to work the next day. Still need a ride? Yep. Okay, I'll be there at 5:30. Sounds good. And that was it. She sat there astonished and was asking why we didn't talk to each other. I really had no good answers either. It's just the way she goes, I guess. My favorite cousin texted me. We got engaged. Best man? Yep, cool. His wife is still baffled by it. I play Pokemon Go. Met some cool people in my town while I lived there. Moved away after a while. A guy I had known happened to be in the area, so I went up for about 3 minutes to make a Pokemon trade, then parted ways. 3-sentence convo. Best friend I ever had. We still never talk sometimes. Yeah, short phone calls are something a lot of women get baffled by. Story 7. How easy they can be to please. A plate of food without being asked, or a compliment or show of admiration in front of other people goes quite a long way. When I met my husband, he was a year into a breakup with a woman that expected him to do everything and just be thankful she graced him with her presence. He was really torn down, but a very good man. I hope this helps some women and men out there because I have the life of my dreams with him after several years and having a family. He's become the kind of man that can change the world with his hands tied behind his back, and I really think it's because I spoke it every time and saw something good in him and do things, no matter how tiny, to just let him know I was thinking of him and that he mattered. It really doesn't take much. Bill Burr has a bit where he talks about a time he was working in his garage when he was hot, sweaty, and worn out, and his wife brought him a sandwich, some corn chips, and a cold beer. She sat it down, kissed him on the head, and left. He said he still thinks about that sandwich years later. It doesn't take a lot to please a man, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't go out of your way to try. Story 8. That whole thing about the way to their heart being their stomach, accurate. I once hooked up with a guy I met on Tinder and made him breakfast the next morning. He said no woman had ever cooked for him before, looked teary, and now we're married. Well, let me put it this way. Not including family, I haven't gotten a free meal since I don't know when. With buddies, it's always the if you pay for food, I pay for drinks type of thing, which is fair, but is someone taking time and effort into making a hot plate of food for me out of love and affection? Hasn't happened yet. And I'm 21. Never gotten flowers, never gotten a present, never got asked to go anywhere special for my birthday. Do I need to go on? To be fair, good food makes everyone happy. Story 9. That they are really emotional, love a cuddle, and want thoughtful consideration just as much as women. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I was raised with men who didn't show their emotions or have strong opinions. The first time I got a proper boyfriend, I was amazed to find he loved being held. My current boyfriend will just crawl into bed with me while I'm sitting playing on my phone and put his head on my chest and one leg over mine, just like I do to him. I never had a man do that, so it felt a little odd at first. Not in a bad way, just an I'm not used to it sort of way. And I discovered that I love holding him as much as I love being held. I can play with his hair and hold him tight and give him little kisses on the top of his head, and I can feel his little smile when I do it, and it's adorable. Men definitely are emotional, just in a different way than women are. Story 10. How rarely they get complimented. I told my guy that I loved his shirt and he didn't even know what to say. He told me he couldn't remember the last time someone complimented him, so I've started looking for little random things to compliment him on. Was shopping for clothes with a friend, and the sales lady complimented how handsome I look in a particular shirt. I don't show my emotions much, but I was helplessly grinning from ear to ear such that my buddy kept pointing it out, much to my embarrassment. It's rare, but it feels good. Years ago, I bought my stepdad a Star Wars themed t-shirt, and he started getting compliments and comments on it a lot, and it instantly became his favorite shirt. Recently, my mom told me he was wanting another nerdy shirt, so I worked with her in secret to get him the right size of one I knew he'd like, and she sent me pictures of him opening it. I shared a house with that guy for 6 years, but I'd never seen such a smile on his face like the one in those pictures. Gonna have to find another for him someday, since they do seem to earn him a lot of compliments. Again with the compliments. Seriously, guys, just tell a man they look good. That's all I ask. Story 11. How freakishly strong they are. My husband was a normal-looking dude who didn't go to the gym, but he literally lifted a treadmill into the back of an SUV by himself. To be fair, you were watching. A man's effective strength increases 500% when there's a woman there who might be impressed at the heavy thing he lifted. Poor dude probably slipped a disc. A lot of times, women underestimate the strength men have without them going to the gym, or anything. It's human biology as far as I'm concerned, but I am often wondering if the difference is that big. My mom asked me to come down one day to help carry a steel table and the top plate upstairs. She couldn't lift it and Dad couldn't do it alone. I lifted up and said, "Huh? I thought it was heavy." The difference can and will be big. Men are strong when they need to be. That's all I'm gonna say. Story 12. They love to hear the tea, but make no effort to ask any questions or get any information to share tea. LOL. Example. Him. "Oh yeah, Mark broke up with Jessica." Me. "Oh my god. Why? What happened?" Him. "I don't know. I didn't ask." Yes, it's like they don't know what kind of questions to ask. I see this all the time when my husband is gaming with his best friend. The bestie will share something like, "This girl is mad at me for I don't know what," and my husband will just say, "That sucks." Why not ask him how he feels? Is he okay? What happened? Nothing. We don't communicate in the same way that women do. If the friend wanted to share the details, he would. The fact that he didn't means he just wanted me to know, to share that something bad had happened, and that he otherwise doesn't want to talk about it. This can be a sore spot when communicating between men and women. Sometimes we will tell women something just like your husband's friend told him, wanting to share that a bad thing happened and be done with it. And we are met with a game of 20 questions that makes us want to punch a wall. If we didn't share, we typically do not want to share, and the questions that your girlfriends expect you to ask them to show that you care instead of coming off as prying, insensitive, and aggravating. This can lead us to clam up and get angry, furthering the myth that men aren't in touch with their feelings. We have them, we just don't like sharing them or talking about them as much as women tend to do. Yes, men love the tea. We're just too scared to ask for more. Story 13. How much some love to hold hands or be physical with hugs and such. Grew up in a bad environment, and many of the male figures in my life were always cold or distant or flat out abusive. Trying to figure out a way to handle it as my body/nervous system isn't used to that at all. I don't know if this makes me a bad guy, but one of my worst fears is falling in love with someone whose love language isn't touch. I'm single at the moment, but there is nothing more I would like to do than hold hands, constantly hugging, snuggled up under a blanket together watching TV, surprise behind hugs, all of it. I want it. But if I end up loving someone who doesn't like physical touch, I don't know what I would do. I was literally just thinking about what it would be like to be married to someone whose love language is touch like me. My wife's love language isn't touch. It's not bad at all, but at times I felt unloved, or that she doesn't love me as much as I love her, or rejected if she didn't appreciate my touch. But knowing that her love language is just different makes it a lot easier. She tries to express love more through touching and I try to express my love through acts of service and words of affirmation, which both mean a lot to her, and almost nothing to me. It's funny realizing it because I suddenly notice how much she praises me and it really doesn't do much, but I know she loves me that way. She's like me to love her. Cuddles could cure cancer as far as I'm concerned. Story 14. That when they need to go to the store, they just go straight to that item and then pay and leave. It's something I need to learn. This only works if the store is not a hardware store or a sporting goods store or some hobby store. I mean, sure, if it's a pharmacy and I want shaving cream, that's what I'll get. If I'm in Home Depot and I need some glue, I'll spend half an hour in the cordless power tool aisle, then wander over to the garden section, then wander back through the grills. I'll leave with the glue and a set of drill bits and a new screwdriver set. My little brother moved out for the first time and lived with me for a few months until he got his own place and couldn't stop talking about how quick my grocery store visits were, 5 to 10 minutes, compared to when he helped shop for groceries with my mom. I laughed and said, yeah, I don't really enjoy wandering around a grocery store to look around unless there is time for it. I separate my store visits into different categories like tasks or leisure. If I need specific stuff, I know how much I'm spending and want to get in and out as soon as possible with a $3 limit on extra spending if I want a snack or drink. And if there are deals on items I'm already buying, I can add it to that extra purchase. If it's a leisure visit, I know which stores I like looking around in and set a window of time on a day I have off to do it with some specific purchases in mind. But overall, I have a set amount I can spend, and it doesn't really matter what I get as long as it's within that limit. This way, I can still shop when I have time and get pleasure from it, but when I just need to buy ingredients, I can do that quickly and get right into making food and eating and getting to the real task, which is ending the day to lounge around and relax. We absolutely love buying things, but hate wasting time or money if it's unnecessary, so it's a lot less stressful to focus on the task at hand. While this definitely isn't something all men are known for, my shopping trips can get a bit distracting too. Story 15. How task/solution-oriented they are in the way they process information. How they really just want me to be happy, in life and in bed. There's a lot of male self-worth that gets wrapped up in how useful am I to the people in my life. It's important to show that you appreciate it, but it's possibly even more important to try and communicate that you still love him even when he's not in the middle of actively pleasing you. It's a life-changing experience to have that pressure relieved. Yup, gets drilled into a lot of us that if we aren't being productive, then we're worthless. The worst is when you are raised by someone abusive who doesn't teach you how to do anything, but expects you to do it right and berates you when you can't do it on your first try. It's led to a lot of issues as an adult where if someone asks me to do something and I can't get it right the first time, I start to panic. And hey, that's a pretty good thing to have drilled into your head. Story 16. When I ask, what are you thinking about, and he says nothing, he actually means nothing. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that men could just sit there and think about nothing. I used to say nothing with my ex because I was thinking something along the lines of, is oregano an herb or a spice? Definitely an herb. And I didn't want to say it was something that dumb. After she told me that's exactly what she wanted to know, I started to tell her. My brain is a cloud of static that must be actively tuned to generate anything resembling a single quantized thought. It drove my ex insane in a very bad way. When we had serious discussions, she would ask, "Can you tell me what you're thinking?" And she would get really mad that the only answer was, "I wasn't thinking. I was listening to what you were saying and processing that." She never came around to understanding or accepting me and always accused me of hiding my real thoughts. That's a bit sad. Sometimes we really do be thinking of nothing. Story 17. I don't think she realized how passionate I get about my hobbies. My wife has a remarkable ability to not become engrossed with stuff and only picks up what she needs. She's moderate and measured, doesn't obsess. Buying a new TV for her is, yeah, which one is under $1,000 that you, the salesman, like? Me, if we need a new car, it becomes a 30-day research project. God forbid we gotta roof the house. I become an insufferable armchair expert before the guy even comes to quote us. A mate of mine got a cactus as a gift. After a while, he bought another one. A woman would probably say that's enough cacti for me, but within 6 months, my mate had moved to a bigger house to accommodate his cactus collection. Same. In my household, however, we both share the obsession. I think it has something to do with ADHD. We are all clinically diagnosed in my home, and our daughter is the same way. She can't decide on something at the moment when she isn't on her meds and will obsess over something when she knows it's upcoming. She hasn't quite figured out how to use the internet yet, but when she does, we are in for a world of indecision. I can relate. One set of headphones led to another, and suddenly I have a headphone collection in my house. Story 18. How much smell is a part of the attraction? Like, I just thought I was attracted to him because he's funny and smart. Turns out I also like his smell a lot, and the guys I've dated afterward have to pass the smell good test to date. Who knew? Oh man, smell is so important. It makes the difference between gagging on BO and licking the sweat off his chest. If he smells anything less than amazing, it ain't gonna work out. A partner of mine just moved internationally, and when we were in the bed the morning before he left, all I could think about was trying to smell him as much as possible. I told my friend the other day I miss his smell. I guess Axe wasn't lying in those commercials after all. Story 19. That some men are truly emotional, have a good fashion sense, enjoy cooking and cleaning, and take care of themselves and others. Not a dig, I just grew up around men that always cast those behaviors as effeminate and not manly, so I was convinced that no heterosexual man would ever be any of those things. I cannot wrap my head around how people perceive cooking as not masculine. Like, have you tried cooking anything except a sad and soggy mac and cheese? Cooking is outstanding and benefits from both your mental strength and your physical dexterity. Don't chop those fingers off. Slicing and dicing is my favorite thing to do in the kitchen. A sharp knife is like a mini sword. Is that not manly? Also, I enjoy very much making something that my significant other likes because my brain goes, I made this food for us. It is food, the gender of the cook is irrelevant. The reason a lot of us don't is because of society. Society, other men, and even women have told us time and again that we should be emotionless, that showing emotion is a weakness. This is pushed on us as soon as we can understand words. Of my past relationships, only one woman allowed me the comfort of confiding in her my issues and insecurities. It felt great to be able to be vulnerable with a romantic partner. Then she cheated on me and used my weaknesses against me. So now I'm back in the I can't open up to others, it just becomes ammunition. No more expressed emotions. Gender roles like that don't make sense to me. What do you mean cooking is feminine? Story 20. How Spartan y'all sleep. Nearly every man I've been with has had a top sheet, and that was it. If it got cold, one added an open sleeping bag. I can't sleep without a top sheet, blanket, and comforter at a minimum. Currently, I have a top sheet, comforter, and throw blankets. Grab some extra blankets, my dudes. When a gal sleeps over, she's going to appreciate it. Probably has to do with how men tend to be less cold than women due to the metabolic action of the extra muscle mass. But I use a giant pile of blankets in the winter because I keep my heat set to 55 or 60 degrees, and it gets real cold at night with those temps. Yeah, I don't really feel cold unless I'm outside and underdressed. The house is always pretty cozy. Story 21. They can be really insecure. A lot of male confidence is just trying to appear as competent as the dude next to us because nobody explains anything to us. We're expected to just know how to do stuff. I don't know how it is for others, but every day I live the life of a high school kid trying not to get their name called in class. Pretty much. As a guy, it is hard to appear competent when you are the equivalent of a toddler trying to figure out thermodynamic physics. There are so many external pressures that vary from guy to guy. Am I doing this right? Is someone who can do this right watching me and judging me? Oh god, is that cute girl I'm crushing on judging me? A lot of it is anxiety, which obviously is not gender specific, but when you combine it with societal gender expectations and ingrained thoughts we are all largely raised with, it can exacerbate the issue thoroughly. Anyone can be insecure. I think that's something a lot of women don't get about men. Story 22. I grew up with very male-dominated second-gen parents of East European descent. My mother was obsequious to men to an asinine degree. I never saw a man wash or clean anything in our home. I was genuinely shocked to see a man wash dishes as my first boyfriend did at his home. For me, a man who can't cook and clean is very unable to live for themselves. This can have two reasons. One, he was never taught how to, which is very sad and a sign of bad parenting, and two, he doesn't want to, which is absolutely asshole behavior. I lived in a shared apartment with both types. The first one usually is happy to learn the skills. I actually made a mental note that my then BF was husband material because he was living alone and would clean up after himself after eating/making a mess or after we both cooked. When I went to use his bathroom on my first visit, it was sparkling clean and smelled good. I asked casually when his mom had last visited and he said it had been months. He kept his office, living room, and his bedroom all tidy and uncluttered decluttered. A long time after, I mentioned to him that I liked that he didn't need to be babied and cleaned after, and that I appreciated that good first impression. He confided that he had made it a point to deep clean his house the day before I visited. My other exes had lived with family and wouldn't regularly cook or clean up after themselves, expecting for that role to fall on their mothers, or more rarely, house employees. He did have a cleaning lady who would visit every couple of weeks and dust and sweep, but he did a great job of keeping tidy and clean all the time, and did not just after she showed up. Story 23. My husband will buy something he needs even if it's ridiculously overpriced, like $8 for a tube of toothpaste, just so he doesn't have to go to a second store. Stores and shopping of any kind equals a bad experience. Also, if I send my husband to the store with a grocery list, I better know where my phone is because I can expect at least 3 phone calls, even if I send actual pictures of what we need. I'm one of the guys that love to go grocery shopping since I also happen to be a cook and I know what I need. But whenever a woman, so-called my mother, my sister, or any girl I'm dating at the time asks me for anything, it's almost a sure call because I won't find the goddamn item. Saving money on gas alone would probably make it worth it. Story 24. They could literally eat the same thing every day forever and not get tired of it. This caused a little bit of tension in my last relationship. I'm not bad at cooking, but I don't branch out much. I've probably made tacos 100 times this year. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year I'll try to make something new that I saw in a YouTube video. My ex can't eat the same thing again if she's had it within the last week. When I started getting home from work earlier than her and became the primary chef, she got tired of my modest menu real fast. The first time my current GF came over, she sent her friend her location after looking in my fridge because, as she told me later, she thought I was a serial killer. Inside the fridge were row after row of eggs, half a dozen containers of cottage cheese, huge bags of kale, no condiments in sight, and the whole freezer was full of dozens of bags of chicken breast. No other food was present. A guy figures out the optimal macronutrient mix in the smallest number of necessary foods, and somehow he's the weird one. This explains why college men tend to live off ramen like a piece of cake. Story 25. Their best friendships are with guys they know next to nothing about. If they accidentally learn something about this man, they will never ask a single follow-up question. My wife goes to girls' nights and comes home and tells me a novel about these people I don't care about. I go out to get wings with my best friend and came home 3 hours later and she asks, "How's his wife? Kids? What are they up to?" I'm like, "I don't know. We talked about pointless things we both enjoy like music, baseball, and Destiny 2. Families didn't come up. They're all alive." Women don't understand that these rare moments are our getaway from the family and kids, not going to spend the time talking about them. I don't even know when my best friend was born, and I've known him for 15 years. Story 26. That apparently a lot of straight guys see a dude who takes care of their appearance and immediately think they are gay. For example, I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years. My boyfriend does basic hygiene. He showers every day and takes care of his beard. We are both autistic, so oils and stuff really bother us. Anyways, we recently found out our manager thought he was gay. Keep in mind that we live together, go to work together, and are inseparable. When I asked why, he said, "Well, Joe's just really clean. I never see any dirt under his nails, so I figured he was gay." So jokingly, I asked him, "So you see another man who doesn't smell like hot ass and just assume he's gay?" Dude looked all confused and was just like, "Well, yeah, what?" This sounds a bit exaggerated, but it's definitely true. Story 27. There's a very strong undercurrent of self-worth that I see in my friends who are men that I don't often find in my fellow women. To clarify, I don't think this is a universal man thing, but I've seen it a lot in men around me. The men I know guard their routines and their time with confidence I desperately wish I had. If they have a Saturday night gaming session every week, the president could be trying to schedule a meeting with them and they will mark that time as busy or not available. It's a wonderful quality to find in a partner if you happen to be one of his non-negotiable priorities. It's a terrible sign if you are not. There is nothing more dehumanizing than constantly being made to compete with and lose to what he genuinely loves time after time. Whenever I refuse to preemptively shuffle my life around until it's convenient for everyone, I've apparently lost my mind. People are way too comfortable asking and telling women how to prioritize and restructure themselves. I've learned from the men in my life that this is really just unacceptable and that my hobbies and interests and friends matter. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you have a similar story or opinion that you would like to share, please leave it in the comments for us below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe if you haven't yet. For more videos just like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.